They say we only use a fraction of our brain's true potential. Now, that's when we're awake. When we're asleep, our mind can do almost anything. While dreams, they feel real while we're in them, right? It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange.
Some of you have probably seen those clips before. Yeah, those were scenes from the movie Inception. Directed by Christopher Nolan, the movie tells the story of people who become aware that they're dreaming.
We're dreaming?
You're actually in the middle of the workshop right now, sleeping. This is your first lesson in shared dreaming.
And they're not just aware that they're dreaming, they can actually manipulate their own dreams. Buildings folding in on themselves, gravity being manipulated, all the way to planting ideas deep inside someone's mind through dreams.
What do you want from us?
Inception.
And the crazy part is, the ideas in this movie actually come from a real phenomenon that's known as lucid dreaming, a condition where a person becomes aware that they're dreaming while still inside the dream itself. And what's even stranger is that this phenomenon has actually been studied in science. In one experiment, scientists can actually manage to communicate with someone and even manipulate that person's dream while they were still actively dreaming. Yup, almost like something straight out of Inception.
And then there's some superstition called lucid dreaming, where you can actually control the direction of the dream. Well, that superstition last year became science fact.
It seems like we've successfully communicated, so we're gonna wake her up and see what she remembers.
So how is any of that even possible? And what exactly is our brain doing while we sleep? Well, we will get into that in a second. But seriously, watch this video all the way through, because after this, you might not want to stay up all night anymore. So get your brain ready, because some of the ideas we'll talk about might genuinely blow your mind. Let's talk about it.
In other words, the movie Inception is not totally hogwash.
For all this time, we've always treated dreams as nothing more than random thoughts that happen while we sleep. But if you really think about it, dreams are actually one of the strangest things humans experience on a regular basis. Because every single night, our brain is somehow capable of creating its own virtual world. A world where we can see things, hear sounds, touch objects, and even feel fear, sadness, or happiness, like everything is completely real.
While dreams, they feel real while we're in them, right? It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange.
Even in one moment, Zhuangzhou, the famous Chinese philosopher, once dreamed that he was a butterfly. And when he woke up, he started questioning himself. Was I a man dreaming that I was a butterfly? Or am I now a butterfly dreaming that I'm a man? But why did he say that? Well, according to René Descartes, one of the most respected philosophers in Europe, dreams really have a way of making us question reality itself. How can we be sure that waking life is the real reality? What if dreams are actually the true reality instead? Yeah, those ideas might sound ridiculous and absurd. But the question is, why do we even dream in the first place? In his book, The Interpretation of Dreams, Sigmund Freud, often considered the father of modern psychology, argued that dreams are a form of imaginary expression created by the deepest desires hidden inside our subconscious mind. And the reason dreams feel so real is because while we're dreaming, the part of the brain associated with logic and rational thinking, the prefrontal cortex, becomes less active. As a result, even the most absurd things can feel completely normal inside a dream. We can suddenly fly, go on a date with a beautiful girl, or randomly become a soldier fighting in a war. Yeah, that's the weird thing about dreams. And sometimes, they honestly feel more exciting than the reality we live in every day.
The part of the brain that said, that's not right, something's wrong, is right behind your eyes. That's shut off. And so right then you know that when you dream, the active part of the brain is not the fact checker, not the rational brain, it's the emotional brain, the fearful brain that is active when you dream.
But back then, all of those explanations about dreams were still just theories. Because for thousands of years, humans never truly knew what was actually happening inside the brain while we sleep. And that changed in the 1950s, when two researchers, Eugene Azarinsky and Nathaniel Kleitman, published a scientific paper about dreams, regularly occurring periods of eye motility and concomitant phenomena during sleep. In that paper, they discovered that during certain stages of sleep, human eyes actually move extremely rapidly, even though the eyelids remain completely closed. And what's even stranger is that during this phase, brain activity becomes incredibly active, almost similar to when we're awake. This phase later became known as rapid eye movement, or REM, the phase where most dreaming happens. This REM phase was first discovered when Azarinsky and Kleitman conducted experiments by placing sensors on people's heads and around their eyelids while they slept. The sensors on the head were used to measure electrical activity in the brain. Meanwhile, the sensors around the eyes were used to detect eye movements during sleep.
These two pens record eye movements to the left and right, and these two register eye movements up and down. Look up, down, up, down.
From these experiments, Azarinsky and Kleitman discovered that the proper sleep actually goes through 4 different stages. The deeper the stage of sleep, the slower our brain activity becomes. But strangely, just as our brain activity starts slowing down, we suddenly enter a phase where brain activity rapidly increases again, almost like when we're awake. And this is what we call the REM phase, the phase where we dream. Because almost everyone who was woken up during this phase claimed that they had been dreaming.
Here are some more eye movements appearing now fairly regularly here on the EEG, and I'm going to go awaken Denise and see if we can get some recall. Denise, just sit up and try to remember what was going on before I came in.
I was dreaming about school, and I was with this other guy. I had a new teacher, and I was flunking the grades, and that's all I know.
Took me back to my high school days. I was at a Shakespeare festival.
What's even more interesting is that the REM phase doesn't happen just once. During 8 hours of sleep, we usually enter the REM phase around 4 to 5 times, which means in a single night, we can actually dream multiple times. And from this experiment, scientists began to realize that sleep isn't actually a passive state like people once believed.
During an average night's sleep, a person has about 4 or 5 dream periods, each around 90 minutes apart.
But even though we apparently dream multiple times throughout the night, a lot of us still feel like we didn't dream at all, right? So why does that happen? That's because dream memories are extremely easy to forget. According to the research, if we wake up while the REM phase is still happening, we can usually still remember the dream. But if we wake up after the REM phase has already passed, the dream will most likely disappear from memory, almost like it was completely erased. And that's why a lot of people think they rarely dream, when in reality, almost everyone dreams every single night.
Well, there are many people like you, who say they never dream, but when they come in the lab and we awaken them during these dreaming periods, they're able to recall something.
But out of all the strange things that happen while humans dream, there's one phenomenon that honestly feels like science fiction. Because apparently, some people don't just dream, they actually become aware that they're dreaming. This phenomenon is known as lucid dreaming, and this is exactly what inspired the movie Inception. In the movie, Cobb and his team are fully aware while they're dreaming. They even deliberately enter other people's dreams to manipulate them, to steal information that the target would never reveal in the real world while awake.
Tell us what you know! Tell us what you know now!
But if the target also realizes that they're inside a dream, Cobb's entire plan can completely fall apart.
Which means I'm not lying on my carpet in my apartment. I'm still dreaming.
Now, of course, the concepts shown in Inception are still far too fictional to actually happen in the real world. But now the question is, can lucid dreaming actually be tested scientifically? Well, the answer is yes, it can. In fact, some researchers managed to do something that sounds almost like science fiction, communicating with someone while they were actively dreaming. One of the most famous experiments was conducted by researchers at Northwestern University. In the experiment, there was a volunteer who was fitted with an EEG device on her head. The device was used to track her brain activity while she slept. Before falling asleep, she was instructed to give a specific signal using her eye movements once she became aware that she was dreaming.
Coded for those where 1 is moving left, right once, 2 is moving twice, 3 moving 3 times, and so forth.
And once everything was ready, she eventually fell asleep. The researchers then monitored her brain activity and waited for her to enter the REM phase. And once that phase appeared, the researchers began giving certain stimuli, like flashing lights, and playing the sound of the violin to trigger lucid dreaming. Then they started trying to communicate with her. They gave the volunteer a simple math question.
2 + 1.
And a few moments later, the sleeping volunteer immediately moved her eyes. The eye movements were exactly the same as the instructions she had been given earlier. Which means the volunteer was actually able to hear a question coming from the real world, even while she was still asleep.
It seems like we've successfully communicated, so we're gonna wake her up and see what she remembers.
And after waking up, she explained that inside the dream, she noticed the lights around her constantly changing. And because of that, she became aware that she was dreaming. Then she saw a math question appear in front of her, so she answered it using the eye movements they had agreed on earlier. This experiment proved that it's actually possible to make someone experience a lucid dream. It also showed that we can influence someone while they're dreaming, even if it's nowhere near as crazy as what we see in Inception.
We're dreaming?
But guys, beyond all the weird things about dreams and lucid dreaming, that's not actually the most important part. The important part is sleep, and even dreaming itself, turns out to be far more important than we've ever realized. Because when we sleep, our brain isn't actually resting. In certain phases like REM, the brain is actually extremely active. And one of the main functions of the REM phase is for memory consolidation. In simple terms, during the REM phase, the brain is basically sorting through information, deciding which memories should be stored and which ones should be discarded. And you need to understand that all the information, like everything what we see, what we hear, every single day, is initially stored only as temporary memory, or the short-term memory. It hasn't yet been transferred into long-term memory. The part of the brain responsible for transferring those memories into long-term memory is called the hippocampus. And interestingly, the hippocampus works most effectively while we sleep, especially during the REM phase. And that's why sleep deprivation doesn't just make your body feel tired, it can also seriously affect your brain's ability to learn and remember things.
What we've discovered over the past 10 or so years is that you need sleep after learning to essentially hit the save button on those new memories so that you don't forget.
This was even tested by Matthew Walker, a neuroscientist from the University of California, Berkeley. In one study, Matthew and his team compared 2 groups of people. One group got enough sleep, while the other group was intentionally kept sleep deprived, and the result was pretty shocking. The group that lacked sleep experienced a massive drop in memory performance, a decrease of around 40%, which means if you constantly feel forgetful or struggle to remember things, lack of sleep might actually be the reason why.
And when you put those 2 groups head to head, what you find is a quite significant 40% deficit in the ability of the brain to make new memories without sleep.
And don't get it wrong, dreams aren't just random thing that happens while we sleep. Some scientists say that while we dream, the brain is actually reprocessing different kinds of information and problems we experience while we're awake. And that's why dreams sometimes feel strange and completely absurd, because the brain is trying to connect different fragments of memories, emotions, and experiences into a simulation inside our head, as the brain tries to find solutions to complex problems that we experience in real life. And this is why people can sometimes suddenly discover new ideas or solutions after they sleep.
Sleep, including dream sleep, is associated with an enhanced ability to solve next-day problems.
So guys, now that you know how important sleep really is, are you still gonna stay up all night?